Okay,
I
say got it.
You got it. You can say whatever you want to say. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Vicki. How are you? I haven't seen you in a long time.
It's been weeks.
Weeks, several of them.
Several of them. And what have you been doing in the last few weeks? Anything exciting?
Same old, just staying away from people, wearing a mask, working on my book, and generally that's about it. I mean, it's such a boring existence. COVID-19 has created, I was always a little boring, but I think I'm even more boring now.
I think we're all, well, not all. Have you found that people in your life have gone back to living?
Yes.
More normally?
More normally, yes. People around where I live seem to think this bug that's going around, this COVID-19 is gone, done. We did that. That was last year, but it's not. Cases are rising faster than ever.
Yeah, I know people personally who have it right now who are not feeling well at all.
Yeah.
They're not having an easy time.
Yeah, this new variant, this new Omicron variant apparently makes people people aren't dying as quickly, I think, and they're not going to the hospital, but they're getting sick and feeling really sick. And it's everywhere. Yeah, I don't know that I know, because I don't know that many people. I don't know anybody really. No. But the people that I know, I don't know anybody now that has it. But the last time that Omicron went through, when I had it, it seemed as though everybody had it, and everybody I know has now had it. But
and so I'm wondering when the statute of limitations runs out on the Omicron, like how long do you get to be immune? Because I've heard it's definitely probably about 3 months for sure, maybe.
Yeah, it varies depending on the person. I think 3 to 6 months is what I hear. I just got my second booster.
I was going to ask you that. And did you have a reaction?
No.
Did you take my advice and drink the Fiji water?
I didn't drink Fiji water, but I drank lots of water, and I completely forgot it was supposed to be Fiji.
Doesn't matter as long as you drank lots of water and you didn't have a reaction. Yeah, that's the secret, I think. Yeah, I'm amazed at how people have just completely gone back to living as if there is absolutely nothing going on.
And never was anything going on. And I know it astonishes me at how stupid we are, because I feel like it's an act of willful stupidity to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I can understand how it's mild, and if you're young and your immune system isn't compromised or anything like that, you can think, I'll be sick for a couple of days and I'll get over it. But you spread it around, and who knows, the next variant might be even worse than Delta variant was, which is, I think, the one that killed the most people.
Oh God.
It surprises me that people are acting as though it's over.
I was just reading today, though, that people get long hauler symptoms. Even asymptomatic people can get long hauler COVID and lose their sense of smell. My friend Anne has lost her sense of smell. People have lost their sense of taste, which would probably help me. I'd eat less, I'm thinking, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe I might eat more just to see if this next bite is going to taste.
I found out there's sort of something you can do. Somebody told me that if you lose your sense of smell, you're supposed to inhale peppermint and eucalyptus oil 3 times a day, and that stimulates
them. Oh, and it'll come back.
It'll speed it up, supposedly. I don't know firsthand, but that's what I've heard.
Eucalyptus and peppermint.
Yes, those 2 oils, because they're very, very pungent. They are very strong. So I don't know if that works. I told my friend Anne today, so hopefully she's going to try it and it's going to work for her. But this brings me to we didn't get to last time that you were a restaurateur.
I was a restaurateur, exactly. Yes.
And so tell us about that. How did that come to be? And are you a foodie? Is that how that happened?
I would not call myself a foodie. I don't like that idea about foodie. I'm suspicious of people who are foodies, but and of Oregon, Portland, where I live, is filled with foodies, and it's people have it tattooed on their forehead. I am a foodie. So you can read it in a rear view mirror. No, I got into it because I was really bored with LA and bored with the jobs I was doing in acting. I had this son, and the woman I was married to had always worked in restaurants and ran restaurants and was really, really good at it.
Mhm.
And I had a bunch of money that I wasn't using, just $200,000 there in my pocket. And I wanted to get out of LA. She wanted to get out of LA. We wanted to get our kid to a place where he could go to public school with a lot of people rather than just the rich people. And so I bought a restaurant. We bought a restaurant in Mequon, Wisconsin.
Wow. How did you land in that town in Wisconsin?
Well, Mequon is a bedroom community. It's a little suburb. Used to be a farming community as a little, just like 20 years ago, north of Milwaukee. And my ex-wife, the mother of my son, is from Milwaukee. And her, at that time, I think she has 6 sisters and her mom, family of 7 women. Dad disappeared. All of them, except for one, lived in the same zip code. And she wanted to move back there, and she wanted to move back with her nearer family. I wanted to move to Montana. So we compromised and we did what she wanted to do.
And that's the way that, except I always went where the guy wanted to go. Why did, Zappa had a song, I will be moving to Montana soon. Why did you want to go to Montana?
Because I had, in 1989, I had 88. I can't remember, 88. I had a job in Cleveland doing Doll's House with a director named Richard Hamburger, who was a really good production of Doll's House. One of my favorite compliments of all time was running into Nathan Lane, who I didn't know.
Wow.
At a audition. And he stopped. He was coming out as I was going in. We weren't auditioning for the same part, but the same thing, I think. And he looked at me and he stopped and said, I saw you, and only the way Nathan Lane could do it, I saw you do Doll's House in Cleveland because I was on tour. It was one of the great performances I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And he said, see you later. And later on, I realized, I said, who was that masked man? And somebody said, that's Nathan Lane.
Wow.
Anyway, so it was a nice compliment. Nice of him to stop me and say that.
How
but I did that.
lovely.
But before I knew that I had that job in August, so I packed my pickup. I bought a pickup truck, put my bike in the back of it. I had a specialized rock hopper that I drove all over New York City, and put that in the back, put a sleeping bag back there, put some fishing gear back. And Montana was the only state I had never slept in. I figured that out, except for Alaska and Hawaii, only one at that time of the contiguous United States. And I drove to spent 6 weeks living out of the back of my pickup truck, fishing all over western Montana, southwestern Montana, and then drove back and did the play in Cleveland and fell in love with Montana, bought some land on the internet, designed a house that I was going to build there. And it became my dream, my goal, to live in Montana, because it's just, the people are great. The people are really competent. I'll tell you a story about Montana, about how competent the people are. I was driving out of Bozeman up, I think it's 87, up the Gallatin River, which is where they shot a lot of river runs through it. And I see ahead of me on the road, a bunch of cars are stopped and pulled over to the side. And a woman comes running up to my truck. I was driving a pickup truck, and running up the truck, I roll the window down. She says, do you have a gun? And I said, no, I'm not. I realized I was in Montana and I should have a gun. And she said, do you have a knife? And I said, no, what's wrong? She said, well, there were 5 horses got loose on the road and 2 of them got hit. One was killed instantly. The other one has bad internal bleeding, and I just want to put it out of its misery, but nobody has a gun, and I could slit its throat. I'm a vet tech. I could cut its throat and bleed it out so it would die quicker, but I can't, nobody in this line has a knife. So she and I went, and we stood next to the horse, who was standing, wouldn't lie down. It was like surrender. But its belly, you could see its belly getting bigger and bigger slowly, because it was bleeding out inside, internally, and it was breathing hard, and you knew it was dying. So we sat there for about 20 minutes to half an hour, talking to it, petting it, stroking it, until it finally went down to its knees and went down and died. And I was just following her lead all the way through. But I thought, these people are so good at this. There's a horse dying in front of them, and they're not going, oh God, what do I do? They're taking care of business. And so I like the people in Montana, and the land is beautiful. And that's why Montana. Was that your question?
Oh, that was a great answer. Whether that was my question. Yes, that was my question. And your restaurant was called Libby, Montana. And there's somebody on the thread who said, Dale Blank, who says, hello from the 414. I've dined at Libby. He dined at Libby,
oh,
Montana.
Good. Lots of people did. Yeah, we called it Libby, Montana. Libby is my ex-wife's name.
Okay.
And there is a town in Montana called Libby, Montana, that, and we tried to figure out, some people wanted to call it Neidermeyer's. It was a lot of money that my mother had left me when she died and went to buy it. And her her maiden name was Dorsey. Some people wanted to call it Dorsey's Supper Club, which I thought was a good name. And at one point, Libby came and said, let's call it Libby, Montana, because I'm here. And you wanted to go to Montana. And we had originally thought we would open a really fancy place in downtown Milwaukee and call it Montana, and serve lots of good beef and just really not cowboy stuff, but just really but we bought a place in Mequon, big place, 260 people sitting seats at a time.
Wow.
Plus 3 indoor heated sand volleyball courts.
What?
Yeah. People in Wisconsin in the wintertime, it's a tough winter. And they
wait a minute. How much space do you need to have 3 indoor volleyball courts?
You need an airplane hangar.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was probably a full acre inside. I don't know how big it actually was, but it was big enough for 3 sand volleyball courts, plus tables and a bar.
Wow.
And it was a monster to heat. You have big fans up above, and you have heaters up there, and fans to push the hot air down. And
wow,
it was great. But people in Wisconsin they will come out all year round, in the middle of winter particularly, put on their swimming suits, play volleyball and drink beer for an hour and a half, and then they'll come into the bar and drink some more beer. So it's like bread and butter in the restaurant business.
wow.
And you don't have the overhead is just heating the place and somebody out there to tend bar, and they take care of themselves. It was good.
And so, was your food special?
Yes, very special. No, it wasn't. It was, I mean, it was good. We tried to keep everything, always do fresh.
Right.
And we tried to make it very good. But we did things like cookies, meatloaf. We did kind of Western stuff.
Wait a minute. What is cookies, meatloaf?
It's just meatloaf, but we called it cookies, meatloaf.
Okay.
Because Cookie the cook, Walter Brennan in a River Runs Through It. It's the cook. So it's meatloaf, and it was good meatloaf, though. It was always good meatloaf. We did fish fries are big in Wisconsin also. So every Friday we do a fish fry. Paid our mortgage with the fish fry just about. What else did we do? We did. We had Reuben rolls.
What's a Reuben roll?
Like egg rolls with a Reuben sandwich chopped up inside of it.
That's a thing. There's a very exotic place in New York, high-end Asian restaurant, Fusion, that serves pastrami egg rolls, which sounds kind of like that, right?
Like, yeah. We put sauerkraut, what else? Swiss cheese and corned beef, I think, all mashed up and in an egg roll. Yeah, no, it's a thing. You can put anything in an egg roll.
I guess that's so. By the way, my grandmother's name was Libby.
It was? Oh, good. Was it
Libby,
short for Elizabeth?
No, she was Jewish.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of what her name actually, I don't know. I know her as Libby.
Does being Jewish preclude her being named Elizabeth?
Yes, Elizabeth is a
white
Christian.
My mother's name was Elizabeth, but she wasn't Libby. She was Anne. Elizabeth Ann Dorsey Metcalf, that's her name. So she went by Anne.
Oh, there was why the Dorsey was going to happen, right?
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
But Dorsey's is a good name for a supper club, for a small.
Dorsey sounds like an excellent name.
Yeah, I know, but that would have been fine dining. So Libby, Montana, that way I greeted people at the door. I could tell that story. I told how I wanted to go to Montana. She wanted to go to Wisconsin. So we compromised and we did what she wanted to do. And this way I can get up every morning, I can go to Montana, and I don't have to leave Libby to do it.
Look at that. That's so cool.
Gotta laugh every time.
So,
and then I had to leave Libby, and we left each other.
So that's a hard life running a restaurant, though. That's like a 20-hour-a-day gig at least,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and when you're owner operator, yes, it's really because especially if you're mistrusting, which you should be mistrusting,
Right.
because it's so easy to steal from a restaurant. A case of steaks can walk out the door. A couple of bottles of scotch can walk out. Anything can walk out the door. It's a cash business.
And it's a cash business.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So you got to be there when the cleaners come to open it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you got to be there at 2:30 in the morning when the bars close, and you got to make sure the drunks get home all right, because if they don't, it comes back to you and your
It does,
boss.
doesn't it?
Yeah, you're
'Cause
liable.
you have to cut people off when they're acting.
You have to
wonky.
say no. Yeah, and in Wisconsin, it's really hard to say no to people. I mean, you can say no, but they say no back. They say fuck you and hit you in the face, because they love to drink and they love to get drunk. Wisconsin had more binge drinkers than any other state in the country, I think.
Is that so?
Yeah, they
Because
love
it's
it.
because it's so cold. Is that why?
I think it's because it's cold, because it's German, because it's now the way they're known. I mean, there are people who say, you'd say to them on a Friday afternoon, what are you doing tonight? I'm getting drunk. Not I'm going to go out and meet some friends at a bar, but which was what we would do in New York, or we were
Right.
not in LA, but because you don't go to a bar in LA because you have to drive home. But people literally go out for an evening to get drunk, to get their brains mushy.
Wow.
And Lou Black, who's a good friend of mine, he used to say in his act, he played Summerfest, which is a big thing up there in the summer in Milwaukee. He used to say people in Wisconsin think they have a federal grant for drinking because they take their drinking really seriously. So.
And so while you were in Wisconsin, you were doing, I seem to recall, you were doing something pretty fantastic. You were doing a film festival tell us about it, what you were doing with the students.
Yeah, I ran a program, collaborative. Milwaukee Film was a not-for-profit that had started a Milwaukee Film Festival, and they asked me to come down and help promote it because I'd done this movie called Animal House that we talked about. And so I went down and I did a lot of publicity for them and was the kissable lips of the film festival for a little while. And I had my friend John Landis come out.
Wow.
And be the featured director at one point. I had Harold Ramis. He came up once from Chicago and was a featured director. There was a program that they had not started yet. They had been toying with the idea. I ended up calling it collaborative cinema. I don't know what it was called at first, but it was basically a program where we would go into high schools and we would say, and I did most of the pitching in high schools all over Wisconsin, say, we want you to write down on one piece of paper an idea for a short film. It's called the pitch, or it's called the treatment, but just write it, handwrite it, do whatever you can, turn it in. We would get them, and we would get a couple 300 of them maybe from students in high schools all over the city. And then we would all read them, and the we all in that is I got together as many professional filmmakers as I could from the neighborhood, and some people who taught at University of Wisconsin Milwaukee, which is a really, really good film school, but not their focus is all experimental film, not narrative film.
Wow.
And so a lot of their students are craving narrative, and we wanted to do narrative shorts because that's what I know. But we would read these 300 treatments. We would pick 50 of them, 25, I think, the first year, but then we got up to 50. They're really good. And then we would bring these students who wrote those to a workshop. That was an all-day workshop, start at 10 in the morning and finish at 4 at night. So like, what is that, 6 hours? 6-hour workshop with professional producers. There's a guy out there named Jeffrey Kurz who has produced stuff in LA, but chooses to live there. Wonderful director, Tate Bunker. Christian Atchen, who's directed a couple of features. He lives out there. I got all these guys who had made films, made features together, and they would run this. We broke the workshop down. So you'd go from, I think we had like 6 pros the students would go in groups of 10 from just station to station throughout the day and develop their idea, pitch it, toss it around, brainstorm it with the other kids in the group. And then they would go home and they would write a first draft. Basically, we were teaching them how to write a treatment and then how to write a draft. So they did a whole section. One was just about format, just about final draft, how to use final draft, or what if you don't want to buy final draft, this is what you do. Write a first draft. We would read the first draft. We would pick the best 10 and bring them to another workshop, another 6-hour workshop, which we worked more like a pitch session, like you would actually, if you went to talk to somebody at MGM or whatever there is out there anymore. I don't know, in the old days when there were studios, before there were streaming services, pitch it to Claire Townsend or David Fields. These are the guys that are all dead now from when I was there. Or anyway, we taught them how to pitch and how to develop their idea. And then they'd go write a second draft. And then we would pick the best of the second drafts and make a movie out of it, using students, high school students as a crew, and using college students from University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and using these professionals as directors and sort of key people. And we got the whole, and they shoot a lot of commercials, a lot of industrials in Milwaukee. So there's a good bunch, they're a really good bunch of crew people, great gaffers, great grips. I mean, really creative, talented, and they love to work small groups, five gaffer grip, rather than 5 of each. 5 people can do both those jobs if you don't have much money. And we would work that way. So we taught these kids how to make movies.
Wow.
From the ground up. So, and it was really a fun program called Collaborative Cinema.
I'm writing that down.
I wanted to call it Collective Cinema or something, or Cinema Collective, but they thought that was too communist, too Marxist.
That's hysterical. Sorry, I think that's hysterical.
It is funny.
What a wonderful thing that is. And did any of those students carry on? And
almost every year, 1 or 2 or 3 of them would get back in touch with us and say that they'd gone to college in film school. I don't think any of them have become have made a big time movie, a Hollywood movie, but they may have made. One of them I know has made an independent feature. A guy named Zach. What was his last name? Zach. I can't remember Zach's last name. Good filmmaker. A wonderful actor named Joel Boyd worked with us. I think he was now in LA doing stand-up and comedy and doing whatever actors have to do these days in the age of this digital world. And another guy named Jeremy Tardy, who's a Black actor who he worked with us. So but several, you can't get them all, but we converted a couple of people to real cinema people.
How fantastic is that?
Yeah, that's great. It felt good. It was a really good program. And then I was asked to go to New York to talk about this program at a thing called Applied Brilliance, which is a sort of a thing they do in New York, and they do it around. They do it up in Jackson Hole. They do it around, and where they bring people in and they just sort of do a long weekend of brainstorming and giving, presenting good ideas. I went away to New York to pitch this thing. I was pitching it as the program that we did, but as a model that would work for anywhere. Any film festival could do it because you've already got film people coming in, and Sundance does it in a more elaborate way. But we thought we were doing something that nobody had ever done before because we were concentrating on high school students, and we were concentrating on high school students that were at risk schools. That's where we tried.
That was my next question. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in Milwaukee. There's a lot of. It's the most segregated city in the country, they say.
Is that so?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. The core, the Black Holocaust Museum is there, which is a really good museum. But the core, I did a whole series I did a podcast once, not a video podcast, but an audio podcast. And I did a series on the Black population in Milwaukee, and they have a saying in the Corps: don't go across the bridge, don't go over the bridge, because the white folks live across the bridge, and the white folks don't want you, so don't go over the bridge, cross the bridge, because they'll get you. So it's a very divided city, and it kind of successfully has overlooked it for years and years and years, for decades. It's there's a great monster sheriff there. I think Sheriff Clark was his name, who was a black man, I believe, but he was vicious. So we deliberately went to the Nicolay, was a school that my son went to, which was up in the north side of town, which is mostly white people. They bust some African Americans in, and some Spanish people, but a little bit of a mix. But we went there too, but we tried to go always to core schools, the tough schools, the schools where there were kids that they call them at-risk kids, just to get their voices, so we could hear their voices, because we wanted to hear those stories, because we hear so many. In those days, you heard so many of the stories of white men, and not white women, not Jewish women, you didn't hear. Now we're hearing more of those stories, which is good. It's good.
Mark, how did you become an educator? Because you teach acting as well.
Yes.
And how did you come? I know how you came to teach acting. You've studied and you've been. How did you come to teach screenwriting? That's a whole different deal.
It's a whole different thing, and I didn't really know anything about it, so I depended on all these people. I mostly was an administrator. I know about the format. I know about what it's supposed to look like. And I've done enough plays and enough movies that I know how to tell a story beginning. And we were very basic, beginning, middle, end. We're just telling a 10-minute story.
Right.
And there's a trick to that.
What's that?
It's very different than writing a feature, as you probably well know. Writing a short, you just have to, it's not just a question of making everything more concise, but in a way, you've got to be more precise in a short, and you've got to just pick one idea. It feels like to me, and the way you tell a joke, you just make it work the way a joke works. So that's how I came, and I didn't really teach it. I learned from the people that I hired, because there were screenwriters there, and people who knew what they were doing, and I would listen to them and talk to them, and I let them do the talking mostly. I mostly just put the thing together and administered it. Was the administrator? Yes, I was the administrator. That's what I was.
But were you acting when you were in Milwaukee? Did you do stage?
Yes, I did stage, because I thought I'd quit. When I left and we bought the restaurant, I really sort of turned my back on it. I told my agent I'd be available if anybody wanted me. And I flew out. They flew me out to do an episode of Angel, because I'd done Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They flew me out to do that. But after I'd been there for about 6 months, a fellow came in at lunchtime, introduced himself as Rob Goodman. He had seen me do a play called Streamers in New York years ago at Lincoln Center. A great David Ray play directed by Mike Nichols. We talked about that.
Yes, we
talked
did.
about Mike. Yeah. Somebody told me another story, Mike Nichols' story, that I meant to tell you.
Oh, you have to tell me.
Oh, this play, he said about the play Streamers that we did. This play is like sex. When it's good, it's really, really good. There's nothing like it. And when it's bad, it's pretty good. So anyway, that's what Mike Nichols said about it. But what was I talking about? Oh, I was doing
theater. Yeah. That somebody, Rob Goodman, had seen you do.
Oh, Rob, he'd seen me do it, and he said, I am the artistic director of a first stage children's theater in downtown Milwaukee. And would you like to do a play for us? And I said, I don't want to do a play for kids, ghosts and goblins and all that stuff. He said, well, that's not what we do. It's different what we do. Just read this script. So he left me a script called Einstein, Hero of the Mind. And it was a script about my character, which he told me what he wanted me to play, who was kind of like a combination of the Music Man and a carnival barker and magician. And I appear out of a book that this 14-year-old girl is reading about Einstein, because she has to write a paper about Einstein. And so the whole play was just her, a 14-year-old girl, and myself, and 47 puppets operated by 6 actors.
Oh my.
And the puppets went everywhere from a 16-inch marionette kind of puppet that was Einstein when he was a young boy, stammered a lot and people thought he was dumb, to a 17-foot tall, what they call a backpack puppet, which you wear on your back, and who was the teacher of this boy, to Einstein at the end. And it took us through, the play was wonderful. It took Einstein from the time he was a little boy to coming up with the E=mc², which is the one that made him famous, to the Holocaust. He was fleeing Germany in the Holocaust, and we had piles of bodies on stage. This is a play for children. And then through the bomb on Hiroshima, which Einstein had not been in Los Alamos. He'd not been part of the group creating it, but he had written a letter to FDR early on saying, you should develop this technology because the Germans are developing this technology. And we got in this big race to create the atom bomb. And he felt, and it was his science that made it possible. And he felt so confused and guilty about his part in this that he spent literally, according to legend, every day for 2 years in a rowboat in the little lake in Princeton that's just to the north and east of Princeton, a little lake that you pass when you drive in from New York City. Princeton's a great town. And he spent every day in a rowboat there for hours at a time, just trying to work it out in his mind what his culpability was for this bomb. And that's how the play ended. So we took Einstein, hero of the mind, we took him through his whole life, through all the events of the 20th century, from E=mc², from this theoretical physics theory that changed the way everybody thinks about the universe and the world, took it through the Holocaust, and then through the atom bomb, through another Holocaust, through the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and ended on this man who was played by a puppet with a head that was about maybe 6, little tiny body. The man was wearing it. Wonderful actor. His name I can't remember. Wonderful actor though, and with this big head that was like 5 feet across, and with the hair and everything, and him talking. It was wonderful play. So that it wasn't ghosts and goblins and witches on broomsticks that we did. We did plays like that. I did The Giver there. I played The Giver, Lois Lowry's book, The Giver. The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle, which is about a young girl who's stowed away on a ship, on a pirate ship, on a military ship. I played the captain, bad guy. We did Holes there. We did a play version of Holes. So I got to go back to the theater, which I'd left to go to Hollywood and do movies and television, which is why I'd gotten bored and quit, because how many episodes of Silk Stockings can you do and entertain yourself? I mean, it gets. Did you ever do an episode of Silk Stockings?
I did. I have not done an episode of Silk Stockings.
Well, it's gone now, so you'll never get your chance.
I'll never have a chance.
It's being a part of television history. So I was bored with that, and I got to go back and do plays. And I tell you, working with young people on stage and working in front of young people, I don't know if you've ever worked in front of children, but you've got to be there.
I have
your own children.
Well, no, but I have my own children, but I was a high school drama teacher by degree.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
okay, anyway. So yeah.
So that experience, yes, directing children is fantastic.
Directing children is great, and because they're and performing for children younger than high school age, we would go from like grade school up to high school, I guess. It's just a really honest audience. If you try to phone it in, and at 10 o'clock you want to phone it in. We do a 10 o'clock show and a 12 o'clock show. And if I wasn't drinking anymore, but I couldn't have done a 10 o'clock show for most of my career, but I could in Milwaukee because I wasn't drinking, and you had to, and the kids won't let you off the hook. You got to be there. You got to be good, because their attention wanders. They'll start shooting paper clips at you. They never did at me, but yeah, no, I loved it. And I loved working with these kids because First Stage Children's Theater also has an academy that's part of it, where they teach young actors. Mm-hmm. And their theory, or their byline is, or whatever that salesman line is, life skills through we teach life skills through theater skills. And it's true, they do. They make better, actors make better human beings. They also make really horrible human beings, as you probably know.
Well, I can think of a couple.
Yeah, I can think of about a handful, or maybe more than that. But for the most part, I'm sorry, I have to pull my sock up. I had to duck out of frame. It's a Woody Allen thing. Wait. What was I saying? Oh, that but these actors also, as actors, are some of the most professional actors I've worked with, because their ego isn't involved yet, because they're just trying to tell the story and do the play and trying to serve their partner. And that's what I got into acting for, is to work with another person. And we all know, we've forgotten that the magic of theater happens between two people, in that airy nothing between, as Shakespeare calls it, in between two people. It's that energy, my energy and your energy, creates what people listen to and feel and respond to. And on stage, it's live, so it's even more tactile.
Who are actors for you, Mark, that do that are in that moment between the moment? Who do you respect? Whose work do you admire these days? Is there anybody that I know you don't watch television, right? Do we talk about?
I mean, I stream a lot of stuff, so I'm up to date on who.
Did you stream Ozark yet?
Yes, I'm watching the last season now. I watched the first couple of seasons and then got a little bored with it. Laura Linney tires me out watching her. Mm-hmm. She's really good. I know she's really good. She's really good, and she takes a lot of risks. The whole trend in America that Walter White didn't start, Breaking Bad didn't start. It had been going on before. The Sopranos probably started, mm-hmm. of people that are really sort of horrible human beings, mm-hmm. being the centerpiece of a story, like Walter mm-hmm. White is. And mm-hmm. I admit, Bryan Cranston's great. Mm-hmm. Breaking Bad is a great series, mm-hmm. but I kind of have gotten a little bit tired of that. Not that I'm going all Christian or peace, love, granola, but I sort of would like to start to see some good human beings rather than bad ones. And Laura Linney wears me out because she's so totally unredeemably mad in that show. And it's very good, and I like it. And I'm watching it, and I can't wait, because I've already read ahead, and I know how it ends. I'm not going to spoil it.
You know how it ends. Well, I watched it, but Felix Solis, who plays Omar Navarro, was with me last week. He's a friend.
Oh, and yeah.
He is a very, very gifted actor. He did a monologue in my living, from The Cost of Living, a Pulitzer Prize-winning play that I saw him in, and he did it in my living. He is an extraordinary actor, but he was explaining that when he was studying for the role, he never took roles as drug lords or things like that, because he didn't want to perpetuate the myth of Latino actors. Yeah. But this one, he felt he had to take. But he studied entrepreneurial men, self-made men who would do anything to protect their business. And that's what he based his character on, which is why he's somewhat likable in the midst of his
he is. Yeah, no, right? He is. I mean, it may not be that you like him and want to sort of sit down and talk to him, although you do, but you have a lot of respect for him.
I think so.
Because the humanity is there. And when he says family's important, he means it.
He does.
When Laura Linney and what's his name, Jason Bateman, say family's important, I think, Fuck you, family's important. Are you kidding?
I know.
I know I'm not supposed to swear.
No, on this show you can swear your heart out.
Okay,
No.
good. Okay. And that woman, what's her name? Julia Garner.
Oh, she is.
She's great. I love her.
Phenomenal.
And I really liked her. As hard as it was to watch, I really liked her in what's it called?
Inventing Anna. That was a very challenging series for me.
It was for me too, but I pushed myself to go watch it all the way through, and I really liked it. And there's a few things that she does that I think she needs to sort of not do the next time, just as a little eye twitchy thing that she does. The little mannerisms that are hers that I'd like to see her. I'd like to see if she can not do them. But your friend, I really like what he does, but the woman that I cannot get over how much I like her, and I can't figure out how she does what she's doing, is his sister, Camilla. Who is just, without doing any of the tropes of a formidable woman or a formidable adversary, and that's what he does. He doesn't fall into any of the traps. I mean, you're right. I mean, I understand that he's studied and he's playing a man who's wants his business to succeed no matter what. And I don't know where she's coming from, but she's coming from an amazing place because
it's all about mother. She's the mother load it was all about her son, right? It was all about redeeming.
It's all about everything. Yeah. I mean, now that I know the ending, you've seen the ending, it's all about her son and everything.
Well, we're giving spoilers.
But she carries that. She carries that so well. I mean, a lot of different actors and actresses will carry that kind of grief and that kind of mourning and that kind of anger in different ways, but she carries it. It's just so formidable. It's so strong. I mean, she's a good actress, I'd say.
Yeah, she's wonderful. You mentioned Woody Allen a few minutes ago, and I wanted to ask how you feel about that. And it's so complicated. I saw him on Broadway when I was a girl and played against Sam, and every movie. I mean, I auditioned for. I love Woody Allen, but I really have a problem now. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I don't have a problem anymore with watching Woody Allen movies because I just don't think they're any good. He really made some brilliant movies. And then when the shit finally hit the fan, or first hit the fan, and People magazine broke the story and he became a real bad guy, which was back whenever it was. This is a guy who never left New York. He wouldn't go to LA to shoot scenes there.
Right.
I mean, unless he had to. I think he did for Annie Hall, but he got in and out right away. He wouldn't go across the bridge. If he went across the bridge into Jersey, he had to be back by 3:00 or something like that. And then he went to Europe and he started making one a year because he wanted that to be his reputation. He started using lots and lots of movie stars, whoever the flavor of the month was. Timothy Chalamet, let's use him. Scarlett Johansson, let's use him because he could get them. Everybody wanted to work with Woody.
Right.
And I think the movies started not being as interesting. Crimes and Misdemeanors is a dark, wonderful movie, and Jerry Orbach's great in it. Angelica Houston. I want to kill her, but she's so good. Because she's just so annoying, but she's great in it. And Hannah and her sisters, all good performances all the way down the line. And he made a lot of really brilliant movies, but he started making movies that weren't that interesting. And then I got to feel like he was making movies just to make them, just so he could make one a year. He wasn't making movies. He wasn't making art anymore. No. Yeah, he wasn't shooting for the moon anymore. He was just telling a joke, making an anecdote. I can never pronounce that word. Anecdote.
There you go.
And so, but in terms of what I don't know. It's a really good question. I think we all have to answer it. Do we look at the artist? Do we look at the art? Can a horrible human being create good art? Yes. I don't celebrate Lenny Riefenstahl. I don't know why everybody does, but a lot of people, some filmmakers, love Lenny Riefenstahl because I guess I've seen Triumph of the Will, and it's really good, but it's just the same thing over and over again. But she does some camera angles, she makes some choices, and a lot of people, filmmakers, will go to school on Leni Riefenstahl. But she was Hitler's favorite, toy, and made movies for Hitler. So I don't watch her, but I will go watch a Woody Allen movie if I hear, if it's Cate Blanchett and Blue Jasmine. Isn't that what it's called, Blue Jasmine? Which I resisted seeing because I just didn't want to see another Woody Allen movie. Enough people told me that her performance was really stunning, and you go and you see it, and it is, I think, pretty stunning.
And she doesn't sound like Woody Allen. I can't. His movies have become so annoying because everybody sounds like
everybody
Woody Allen.
sounds like Woody Allen. I know, and it's I can see it because he writes them, and if you just work off of the script, there's a big cadence and a sound in every character, and he's a good writer, but he's writing his voice in it. So it's hard not to pick up his voice. Even somebody like Owen Wilson, who has his own rhythm, will end up sounding, and all these other guys.
John Cusack. I mean, so many actors have just turned into Woody. Yeah.
They just turned into Woody Allen, and they have to be aware of it. But
I would think so.
I think so. I mean, you have to be.
It's such an interesting thing you pose. Now I'm all caught up. Wait, to finish what you were going to say, and then I'll.
No, I would say if you choose to not, if you get that script and he wants you to do the part, and you choose to, I don't want to be the guy that's doing Woody Allen.
Right.
You've got that becomes your job, is to work against the language, against the natural rhythm of the character. And I don't know that anybody's ever played that character in any of his movies and not done it.
I don't think so. That's what I was just going to say. I think they've all taken, even the women.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson will start to sound like Woody Allen.
Yeah.
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 And now I'm really fixated on thinking of something that I've watched where the main character is not somebody bad. I just finished binging The Sopranos again, and everybody's bad, but they're all sympathetic to me. I just spoke to the guy who played Johnny Sack, and Vincent's going to do this show, and I had Big Pussy on, and Michael Andreoli is a friend of mine, and I mean they're all so real that they're empathetic.
Right.
But I can't think of a show. I like dark, and
I do too.
I was asking you last time if you had watched Yellowstone. That was the one I was trying to think of. Have you seen Yellowstone?
Yeah, I have.
You didn't like Yellowstone?
Well, I love Montana. I mean, like I said, I do like it. I watched it as much as I could get for free on Netflix or whatever it was on, and then I had to start paying for it. So I haven't watched. I think I've watched 1.5 or how many seasons have it been on?
Oh, it gets really good. I think there are 3 seasons, and the ones that you have to pay for are kind of worth it. It's really dark, but it's really good. Yeah.
Well, and I like dark, and I love that woman.
She's wonderful.
She's great, and I've always liked her.
I don't know if I've seen her in anything else. I didn't recognize her.
I feel like I have seen her in something else, but I don't know.
She's incredible. She's complex.
She's incredible, yeah. And they apparently, and you can tell by watching it that they got a lot of letters about how many people liked her because and I read something where the writers said, well, we're just going to make you the baddest bitch ever.
I didn't know that.
So, and she said something like, I don't ever get to say any, all I say is mean things. I'm just mean all the time. But she's incredible. And I've always I've never liked Kevin Costner as an actor. I don't know him personally, so he's probably a really nice guy. There's just so much testosterone in that thing. And
I found him very sympathetic, though. I really did like him in that.
Well, yeah. I do too. I understand that. I mean, he is sympathetic, but I think he's doing something that people have done before forever. Whenever they play white male authoritarian figures.
Watch the rest of it because he gets pretty he gets very interesting.
All right.
His character evolves quite a bit.
Really?
Yes, I think so. Okay. We'll talk about it after you watch.
Yeah, I'll watch. I will. I'll look at it. I think my son, I think, has Paramount Plus, so maybe I can watch it on his.
Maybe,
on Paramount Plus.
maybe he'll let you.
Yeah, maybe he'll allow me to watch, to use his, I'm paying his rent.
So, all right, so let's get to your work, because no, I will not be forgiven if we didn't talk about the Maestro, we didn't talk about the Master, and these are things that make people crazy. And I know
we'll just have to keep dating and do it a third time and a fourth time. Just keep going.
We'll have to keep doing. All right, I have you for 10 more minutes. So tell me about, I know you were not a Seinfeld watcher, you were not a television watcher.
Right.
So you get on that set. Okay, what I only know, well, so could you appreciate what was happening there once you got on the set?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you're in a room with people who know what they're doing and who are doing their job and and especially when they do their job really well, without a lot of, and there's plenty of ego in that room, but that ego is fine as long as it's, doing the job. And yeah, as soon as you walk in that room for the table read the first day on Monday morning, you're in a safe place. And the script is good. You've already.
How did you get the role?
I auditioned like every other schlub. It's funny actually, because I think the first audition was on a Thursday.
For Larry David? Was it for Larry David?
Yeah, Larry was there and Jerry was there. We're both in the room, but they were seeing every tall white guy in town. And not that tall, not too much taller than Jerry, but I was going to be sitting down. But anyway, there were 500 people probably they saw the first day, I suspect.
Wow.
And I knew they started shooting on Monday. Right. So I thought, well, I'll find out tomorrow. And I didn't hear anything all day. And so I thought, well, all right. And then I got a call late in the day on Friday. And my agent says, they want you for a call back. Can you go in tomorrow, Saturday morning? So I went on Saturday, did another callback, and this time there weren't nearly as many people in the lobby waiting. There were probably only 3 or 4. And I went in, again, Jerry was there and Larry was there, not too many other people. And I said, well, I said, thanks a lot. It was fun. It was a good read. They laughed, I laughed. And I went home and I thought I'd hear something by the end of the day Saturday, but I didn't. So I thought, well, okay. And I was used to saying, well, okay, I didn't get that one either. It's 3 times out of 4, you don't get the job. Only the rare person like John Travolta gets according to him, got every job he ever auditioned for.
Is that so?
I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know.
I mean, he says that?
I've heard him say, I've seen him say that in print. Yeah. Wow. That he got every job he ever auditioned for. I thought when I started doing movies, the first movie I ever did was Julia, with Jane Fonda and Vanessa Redgrave, directed by Fred Zinnemann. And I didn't have to audition for that. I just went and met with the producer, and then I met with Fred, and they gave me the part. I didn't have to read the line. I didn't have to read lines for Animal House. I just had to talk to John Landis and tell him lies. And like the first 3 or 4 or 5 movies I did, I didn't have to audition for. Now I have to audition. I have to audition for plays for kids now. It's backwards from the way you're supposed to work and build up some kind of ability.
You have to do it.
Just walk in. Not me.
So Seinfeld.
So they called me on Saturday night. My agent called me and said they want you to come back again tomorrow for the 3rd callback. They just want to be sure. So I went back, and I don't know if it was anybody more than me. There might have been somebody else there, but it was Larry. It was all the writers and all the producers and the director. What was his name? Ackerman, I think the director's name was, and Larry and Jerry, and they were all there. And I don't think by this time I didn't feel like, oh, I got the part when I left, but I felt good. I felt like I'd done the best I could do. And then by the time I got home, I got a call from my agent that I had the job and I have to be there tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for the table read. And then that's it. The rest is history. But it was a great part. And the writing's good. And like we all tell all of our acting students, if we have acting students, if the writer's done their job, your job is easy. Your job is fun. If the writer's not done their job, that's when your job gets to be hard, because you've got to like Stella Adler used to say, the playwright writes the short story and the actor writes the novel.
Wow.
You've got to fill all that stuff in.
Mm-hmm. And was it really fun? Was it fun to shoot it? I mean, because it's such a fun.
It was a fun set. It was great. I mean, yes, it was. They're all really top-notch professionals. I mean, you look at what Julia Louis-Dreyfus has done since then, and just, I mean, there's nobody like her. She's just really, really good at that job.
Yes, she is.
And Jason, Jason knew me from New York, and he thinks I know. I thought I might have known him somehow tangentially. Oh, my son is doing something in the backyard. Oh, he's lifting rocks. He just came back. My son just came back from his run. He's in the backyard. He's lifting rocks for his upper body exercise.
That's pretty macho.
Yeah.
All right. So quickly. So yes. Buffy and wearing all that stuff, and you did it for a long time.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
Well, I auditioned again, like everybody else. And I was told by the casting director later, after Joss cast me, that she brought me in because she was at a point, and casting directors will do this, she said, with directors who don't seem to be able to articulate really clearly what it is they want. They will start bringing in people that they know are wrong, but just wrong, because they're trying to bracket it. It's like artillery guys. You shoot one over there. Okay, now we'll go back to the west. So it's a little up, so we bracket it until we find it. And she brought me in as one of those guys. She was sure that I wouldn't get cast, that I was the wrong. But
wow.
And Josh liked it, what I did. And I came back again, auditioned again. And then he told me, I think he told me in the callback, the second callback, that he wanted me to do it. I got the part. And I said, oh, great, Josh. So what's the arc of this character? I knew it went all the way through the first season. What's the arc of this character? And Josh said, it's really great. And I just realized I'm talking about Joss Whedon as though I like him. He's another one. What are we supposed to think of Joss Whedon now? But he's nice. He's a really smart guy, and probably an asshole too. But so am I sometimes. But I said, so what's the arc of this character? And Josh said, it's really great because in the last episode, you kill Buffy. And I said, oh, that's cool. Does that mean if it gets picked up, the second season will be called Master the Buffy Slayer? And he laughed. And then what he didn't tell me is I killed Buffy, and then she comes back to life and she kills me and turns me into pixie dust. But so I auditioned, and it was 5 hours to do the makeup.
Wow.
At the beginning of the season. By the end, they had it down to 3.5, 5 hours, because they would put the foam on, and it was a piece that covered my face, a piece that covered my head, a piece that covered my neck, one for each ear, and then the nails. And they would put it on, and then they would paint it, because they didn't know exactly. So it got to be very collaborative, because I would get to say, could you do something with and I'm colorblind, but I could still say, just maybe the lips need to be a little darker, or, and they were very great about collaborating. Everybody on the show was good about collaborating. It's always better to work with people who collaborate than it is to work.
How is that kind of acting for you?
It's great. I love acting with a mask.
You do?
Yeah, it's liberating in a lot of ways emotionally. It's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't want to do every character in a mask, but I understand. In college, we took a class in Greek drama with a mask, and we learned that, when you got that mask in front of you, you can go a little madder, you can be a little crazier, you can be a little, because it's a mask. And what did Ellen Burstyn used to say at the studio when she was teaching classes at the studio? She'd say, acting is about wearing different masks all through, or one mask or a couple of different masks all through the play, except for a few moments when you pick the moment where you let the mask slip away and let the audience see the real person inside.
Wow.
And that's what we do in life. I mean, I'm wearing a particular kind of mask with you because of who you are. Again, the three rules of acting. The only rules of acting is know what you see, know how that makes you feel, and then know how you feel about that.
Wow.
So that's all you need to know. That's what I did. That's right. If I ever teach, whenever I teach acting, I say, that's all you need to know. See you at the bar. No. I mean,
Well,
it's easy. It's easier said than done, obviously, but
yes, it is.
that really simplifies it in a great way. And that is a thing that grew. There's a guy who was in The Sopranos. Do you know David Proval?
I know who he is. I don't know him
You
personally.
should have him on your show. David's a great guy and ran a great
I
acting.
actually did meet David Provo, actually. Yes, I do know
Yeah.
him, actually.
Yeah.
He was a friend of Henry Jaglam's. He was in a film.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So do you watch Barry? Speaking of acting teachers who teach.
Yeah. I watched Barry,
Mhm.
and it was one of the shows that just disappeared during COVID, and it's now back on, and I have not gone back to watch. I watched it and loved it, and I loved Henry in it, and
Fantastic.
and that guy, Bill Hader, who I'd ordinarily am iffy about, neither here nor there, when he was on Saturday Night Live and things afterwards, but I really like him. It's a wonderful show. It's a really good show.
And he does the writing, and he's
Yeah.
the guy. Yeah,
He
that's
does it
pretty
all.
amazing. And I have to let you go in a minute, but
I
I
know.
just want to quickly ask you, how's your book going?
I finished what I think is the third draft.
All right,
What
congratulations.
I'm calling a third draft.
Mhm.
And I am at a place where I really need to, and we've talked about this, and I have to contemplate it, where I want to get it in front of a neutral party. I think I said the same thing when I talked to you 2 weeks ago on our first date. But I really do now. I mean, I go back through it every day, bits and pieces of it, and just refine and make a sentence a little bit better. I think it's better, but who knows? It's like Hal Ashby cutting a movie. You can cut a movie forever if they have to come and take it away.
I thought I would be going to the store with a Sharpie and changing lines in every copy of every book, but after 13 years, I got to a place. I had left it for a number of years where the last time I read it through, I didn't make one change, and that's when I knew I was done.
Yeah,
that was when I knew.
Well, that's probably what I need to do now while I'm waiting for some agent or an editor or somebody to sort of pop them in front of me and say, where the universe will say, hand it over. And I'm still contemplating your offer.
Oh, well, that's something. And okay, my last question. Okay, I'm friends with Eddie Ojeda from Twisted Sister. How did they approach you? And was that fun for you to do?
It was great fun to do. It was really fun, again, because they really collaborated. They were very, all of them are, and they're all good guys. I mean, Eddie.
I know Eddie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Funny story, when after it was out and it went platinum, they called me and said, listen, we're going to be doing a gig at Nassau Coliseum on such and such a date, and we want you to come on stage and deliver the platinum album to us. And I thought, great, rock and roll. And we'll send a car for you. And they did. They sent a limo for me. I thought, this is going to be great. Women, drugs, groupies, the whole thing, alcohol. I need some of this right now in my life. I get there, and they're like Mormons. They don't drink coffee. They don't drink beer. They don't drink anything. They don't smoke anything. They don't do any drugs. They're real professional musicians, and they go out and they do a show. Oh, yeah. And it was a really eye-opener. And it was great going on stage in front of 19,000 crazy headbangers, hairband aficionados. Somebody threw a pizza at me, an entire pizza in the box.
Oh my God.
Because I went on stage and I gave him I did the character, and I gave Dee a hard time, made him do push-ups, screamed at the crowd because the crowd was booing me because they were getting into the act. I would yell back at them and walk down the edge of stage, and some guy, this whole entire pizza, all my life, I'll remember this pizza flying out of the darkness into the light.
Did it hurt you? Did he hurt you?
Oh. No. I mean, it was floating through space, like in slow motion. So I had enough time to sort of block it and push it down. And I opened the box. It was a good piece of big pizza. I took a bite. I passed it around. It was a whole pizza in the box. It was fun.
Well, that's pretty hysterical. Well, speaking of pizza, I know it's dinner time. I know you have to make dinner for your son and your brother.
Cook dinner for my son.
Are you a good cook?
Oh, I don't cook. He doesn't require too much. He likes meat and pasta. Okay. And so I do like to cook, and I've been experimenting more and more things, but I would never say that I'm not a subtle cook. I make really good lentil soup.
Oh, that's good.
And my son gave me a Ninja Foodie for Christmas, for Father's Day last year. So one of my favorite meals for him to eat and me to and my brother to eat too is chicken thighs with rice pilaf.
From the air fryer? You have an air fryer? Is that what
Air
the
fryer,
Ninja?
yeah.
I love the air fryer.
They're great.
And it's
I mean, you can
fantastic.
yeah, and a pressure cooker too. I mean, I can do a pot roast in 45 minutes. A really
It's
good pot roast,
amazing.
potatoes and carrots, and make good gravy, and it's tender and it's juicy. What else have I made? You can do, you can. I love this thing.
Mine isn't a pressure cooker. Mine is just an air fryer.
Yeah, Ninja makes the air fryer. They make and then I have the Ninja Foodie, which is a pressure cooker, an air fryer. You can broil things in it. You can make yogurt in it. You can dehydrate fruit in it.
Yes,
You can do
dehydration
all
is
kinds
great.
of things in it. It's all you need. I don't need a wife anymore. I've got my Ninja Foodie. If only it would vacuum for me.
Oh,
I'd have everything I need.
that's horrible that a wife does those things. But well, that's
I know. I was kidding. I was
that's
being
for another
sexist for the
time.
joke. Yeah, we'll have
Yes.
it. Okay, we can. Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much, Mark, for doing this again. And
Thank you. This is
for,
you're a wonderful, charming host, and I'm
Thank you.
Very have a good time talking to you.
It's been
I
wonderful.
Hope we can do it some more.
Absolutely.
Bye, and
Have a
thank you.
wonderful
How do I get